Right, I'm in. I hope I'm in. Right, I'm just making this video just because the training blog that I keep on the forum at the moment, I never seem to write much information, and that is down to pure laziness, basically. And people who are kind enough to follow and ask questions, I thought it'd only be right that I would try and explain my training program and how I've adapted it from my prep to the Euros to now for the Brits, because I have changed a couple of things now. So yeah, basically for the Euros, my training program consisted of very basic, just linear progression with lighter weight at the beginning, with more volume to kind of get a bit of a hypertrophy section of muscle building, and then gradually build up the weight and tapering off the volume and tapering off the accessory work to as I got closer to the comp day to peak for strength. But what I do, my deadlifts are 1 week heavy, the next week light, and it continues on like that. But everything else is just linear progression. So I went up in weight every single week on all of my lifts. The volume went down, but the weight went up. So on squats, I think I went on the first week something like 220, 5 sets of 5. Then the next time I squatted, it was probably 240 for 3 sets of 3, or something like that. That's the example I'll use. But also I had on Thursdays, this is how I train. Mondays I bench, Tuesdays I squat, Thursdays is an accessory day for bench because that's my weakest lift and I need to work the most on that. And also you can recover a bit better from 2 sessions from pressing than you could a squat or a deadlift session. And Saturday is when I deadlift. I programmed PBs with linear progression on bench, obviously Monday, squats Tuesday, but then on Thursdays I had standing overhead press, which I also programmed. That is one of the biggest things that I've changed in this program now. On Thursdays it's no longer programmed for PBs. Basically I found, or I felt like, that standing overhead press, strict standing overhead press on Thursdays it felt like it was a bit detrimental to my lower back because of the position you hold, and when you start getting above 110 to 120 kilos, I felt as if I could feel it still a little bit on Saturdays. And as overhead press isn't one of the 3 big lifts that I need to get stronger, I removed that in the last couple of weeks. So I've got rid of that now, and Thursdays is just an accessory day for bench. It's still just accessory for bench, and I still will work my delts because it's important to train your delts as well as your chest. But it will be seated dumbbells and seated barbell press, and then other accessory work. So that's the first thing that I've changed. The second thing I've changed is squats. They went up week by week, heavier and heavier and heavier. And what I found towards the end of the program, when it was my heavy week for deadlifts, as I said earlier, I do 1 week heavy, 1 week light. On the final weeks, I was going heavy pretty much every week on squats, but I squat on Tuesdays, deadlift on Saturdays. But when you go really heavy on a squat, I was a bit worried that it would still be affecting my strength or my sets for deadlifts. So now, in the program, I've made sure that the week that I go heavy on my deadlifts, I rein it in a little bit with my workload on squats. So I either don't go as heavy or I just don't do quite as much volume. So I should recover for my deadlifts on Saturday. And then on the week where I am going light on deadlifts, I push it a bit more on my squats. That just makes sense to me to help both lifts progress. And how I have wrote this program, it is pretty much, I have a number in my head that I want to aim for. So my numbers being, for the next competition, the Brits, in just under 10 weeks time, I want to have a 335 squat, a 210 bench and a 365 deadlift. So I work out what final set would I like to hit in training to give me the confidence that I can hit that weight on the platform. So for squats, my final heavy squat session, I'm aiming to do 310 for 3 reps. For bench, I'd like to double 200 paused, and for deadlifts, I want to triple 330, but I want to triple it fairly comfortably. Trying to leave a little bit more in the tank with deadlifts, and just allow, because I don't use a Texas deadlift bar in training, and that can make quite a bit of difference on the platform with the flexibility. My numbers before at the Euros, I hit 315 kilos, so 335 might sound very optimistic to hit 335 for my next competition, but I did put 325 kilos on the bar. I went down with it and I came up with it very easily. I was just, must have been an inch, half an inch shy of depth. So in my head, I feel more than capable of squatting 325 kilos. And the British record for squat is 332.5 kilos. So I want to get that. Bench, again, my previous PB's 200 kilos. But due to technicalities at the Euros, I had my first 2 benches failed. I opened 190 and 195, but unbeknownst to me, I was slightly dipping the bar after the press command, and then pressing up, and obviously that's illegal, you're not allowed to do that. So I played safe with my final bench, and bench 200 and made sure there was no movement, but that was an easy press. I felt like I had 205, so in my head I'm thinking I've only got to get 5 kilos stronger. Deadlift 350, it wasn't easy, but it was smooth. It wasn't the biggest grind of a rep I've ever had, so that's going to be the hardest thing to do. But my overall goal for the Brits is to hit a 900 total. And the secondary goal to that is to get an 800 pound deadlift, which is 365 kilos, that's 804 pounds. But if I go 6 for 6 on my first lifts on my squats and my bench, and then I get my first 2 lifts on deadlift, that should have already given me my 900 kilo total. And then the 365 will just be the risk for the token 800 pounds deadlift on top of that. So primary goal is 900 total, and then if all goes well, I could actually, and I get my 365, that would actually be a 910 kilogram total. That could be subject to change with my goals. Obviously, I'm just over 9 weeks out. So depending on how training goes, and if you get any niggles or slight injuries, I might have to rein that in. But at the moment, I feel confident that is quite achievable. So I just thought I'd talk through and give a bit more information to the people who are actually looking at my training program. Of course, they're kind enough to give me words of encouragement and show interest. And sometimes I feel like I don't really give a lot back, because all I do is just record the sets and don't write a lot of information. So that's why I just thought I'd do it. And I got a bit of time this morning. I was bored. So hope this helps some people out in any way. All right.